The Maryland Historical Society's Stitching History flag left Baltimore for the first time on March 25th as a part of the Maryland Day commemoration, joining forces with Fort McHenry and the Pride of Baltimore II.
Well, yesterday morning we got underway for the first time this season with our 2014 bicentennial sailing crew. We went over to Fort McHenry, picked up 30 by 42 hand-sewn Star Spangled Banner, brought that on board and have it down here in Annapolis today to help perform our role in celebrating Maryland Day.
We are starting the beginning of our tour for the Stitching History flag. We spent 6 weeks last summer putting it together, putting a lot of kind of love and care into making the flag. But after making the flag, we wanted it to travel. Celebrating Maryland Day, it's a great kind of link for us. As the Maryland Historical Society, we always encourage people to celebrate Maryland Day. Maryland Day, as an official state holiday, started in the early 20th century, and it was actually a day dedicated to the study of Maryland history. So what a perfect day to really kind of launch our tour and commemorate what happened with the Battle of Baltimore and with the writing of the Star Spangled Banner, the national anthem.
Ian explains the historical link between Fort McHenry, the Star Spangled Banner, and the Pride of Baltimore II.
Pride of Baltimore II, she's modeled after a ship named Chasseur. Chasseur was hailed as the Pride of Baltimore by a newspaper in town. She was the most successful privateering vessel, a huge thorn in the British's side during the war effort. We could easily outrun the British fleet that was chasing us. We could swoop up out of nowhere to capture prizes. That's why they were so valuable as privateering ships. And this whole design was developed in Fells Point in Baltimore. So the true reason for the British wanting to come to Baltimore wasn't so much to capture the fort. That was just a necessary obstacle they had to get around. They wanted to burn the shipyards in Fells Point.
Maryland Day has significance to Fort McHenry in that the state of Maryland is the Star-Spangled State. So when you look at the grand history of the United States, one state out of all others in my mind stands out, and that is the Old Line State. Not only did she serve well under Washington during the American Revolution in winning our independence, but she preserved that independence 30 years later in September of 1814 during the War of 1812. And it was the site of the grand Star-Spangled Banner waving over Maryland's Fort McHenry at dawn's early light that inspired our national anthem. So on Maryland Day, the Star-Spangled State, it doesn't get any better than that.
As snow fell, the procession left City Dock with the flag proudly carried by members of the crew of Pride II. They marched through the streets of Annapolis, accompanied by fifes and drums from Fort McHenry. Their destination was the Maryland State House, where the media waited for their arrival with Governor O'Malley and representatives of 14 nonprofits and government entities that would be receiving grants to support War of 1812 bicentennial projects.
Those of you who know anything about the flag, it's much bigger than this space.
Bert Cummerow invited guests to come up and help unfurl the large flag as much as possible, while Vince Vase related some history about Fort McHenry and the iconic banner.
Annapolis was threatened, Baltimore was threatened, and Armistead said it is my intention to have a flag so large the British would have no difficulty seeing it from a distance. And that's when he had Mary Pickersgill, a local Baltimore flag maker, sew a flag 30 by 42 feet.
The confines of the space in the State House only allowed the flag to be displayed to half of its full 30-foot height. Governor O'Malley distributed grant checks to the Pride of Baltimore II, Friends of Fort McHenry, and 12 other grateful organizations.
That defended the Star Spangled Banner.
Following the presentation, media outlets conducted dozens of interviews about the various bicentennial history projects. Governor O'Malley invited the young musicians from Fort McHenry on a private tour that included his personal office. He pointed out a number of historic paintings and artifacts.
Seen it at the time, probably sketched that and asked them, did it look like this, and how far out were the ships and all of that stuff. So I think that's a pretty cool painting.
Photos were taken, and it was time to leave the warmth of the State House and return the flag in the cold, snowy weather.
The fifes and drums that we're playing today are the junior corps of the Fort McHenry Guard fifes and drums. And so they're young volunteers that have been rehearsing for about a scant 5 months, twice a month. And today was their first day playing together, marching together, and doing so in uniform. And their Esprit Day Corps carried them through this bitter weather. They're the next generation, and they're carrying on that spirit of the old defenders of 1814.
Maryland Day, March 25th, is our kickoff for our Star Spangled Tour. We're going to be going all over the state to all the different Maryland heritage areas.
This is the Stitching History Project. Hip hip! Hip hip!